Joining me on Car and Bike, I have Ilka Horstmeier, who is member of board at BMW. It's a significant time for the company because not just are we seeing a slew of new products, but it's also significant from the point of view of what kind of products we are seeing and the future direction that they indicate. It's wonderful to speak with you. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning, and it's nice to have your time. I appreciate that. So, as I said, it is an interesting time for the company. It's very rarely that we see such momentous changes happening in our industry. Good time at BMW as well.
Yeah, it's a great time at BMW, and you can have a glimpse into the future of what BMW will look like with the BMW i7, which we present here in Palm Springs, and of course the BMW X7. And we are already moving into the future with the Neue Klasse in 2025, which will be a fully electric car, starting in the sedan class, in the 3 Series sedan class, and then moving up to the SUV. So at the end of the 30s, you will have about 50% of Neue Klasse in the market. It will be 50% all electric cars, and it will be a totally new digital experience. So you have 3 things you have to keep in mind when you think about the future of BMW. It's digital, electric, and circular.
And that, of course, is completely in line with how the industry is evolving as well. I know there are still many question marks in terms of how we get there, whether it's the raw material or whether it's maybe new technologies we still do not know about. But given the fact that there is so much uncertainty, how difficult is it then to plot such a strategy for the next decade?
We are very clear on the strategy, as I mentioned before, and for us it's very important to set really measurable, tough targets on that. So the whole organization will be aligned. We're not doing sustainability at BMW, we're making BMW sustainable with targets on the whole car. So we want to reduce the CO2 footprint of the cars by 40% in total. And that means tough targets in the whole supply chain, because just replacing combustion engines by electrical engine doesn't make a car sustainable. So we set up clear targets for the whole supply chain, 80% on production, 20% in the supply chain, and 50% in the usage phase of the car. And we add the next step, circularity, because that is for us, due to the scarcity of natural resources and of reducing the CO2 footprint, the next step.
So when you have these kind of changes afoot, of course, as you mentioned, the change is happening at literally every step of the process. At the manufacturing end, there has to be a lot of flexibility over the next few years in terms of not just what happens on a particular line, as we now see with the 7 Series, but also in terms of the adaptability to responding to market need or demand or certain trends. This is just the first step, I know, because at Dingolfing you've made the change already. What about the rest of the plants, and how will the workforce be equipped to handle the change?
You're touching a very interesting and important point, especially as the CHRO of the company.
Yes.
Of course, BMW's strategy has been always and will be in the future to take our people with on the journey. For over 100 years we did that, and we'll do that in the future. So we transform basically all our plants in a way that we can build more or less 3 drivetrains in our assembly lines. So we use the same people to do so. And if there's a change, for example, in engine plant in Munich, which is a plant that has to transform now for the Neue Klasse, and the engine factory has to be removed due to that fact, we take these people with, we give them jobs in other parts of the company, we train them, and just to give you a figure, more than 50,000 people already have been trained in electromobility in the company. So it's a huge upskilling and reskilling program. And one good thing is there, if you have a little bit of time, if you foresee things, if you have a good strategic HR planning, then you can plan well in advance and prepare well.
And this is, of course, something that will gradually unfold across the world with your network.
Yes.
I know it's starting in Germany, but
each and every plant is now capable to build electrified cars.
So on that point, I know that there's been a lot of talk about having either the flexibility or the ability to flip completely to electric, depending on what happens in the marketplace or what happens with supplies. But in plants like India, for example, which is obviously still quite limited in its scope, or even something like Spartanburg, where it's SUV heavy and there's a huge demand for the existing vehicles already. How do you then hedge those changes?
Exactly as I said, each and every plant has been transformed already so that we can produce electrified cars in each and every plant. And of course, due to the market demand and the market need, we will allocate different models to the markets. And I think it's the best way to do it, because sometimes people just build new plants for electromobility, and then you have the problem, either it's underutilized or you have not enough capacity. So I think for us it's perfect opportunity to balance, especially the next couple of years, between the drivetrains and between the customer needs. And that's what we call BMW's way of transformation.
I remember a few years ago when you had the presentation for cars that became the i8 and became the i3. At the time, the term born electric, the first time we started to hear that. Given that, and given the sort of, almost, let's say, advantage that you had with bringing some of those products much earlier than people expected, the Neue Klasse, there's been a lot of talk about how maybe that should have come sooner. How do you see that in terms of the current electric portfolio until 2025?
I think it's very important to understand that we follow always the market. And of course, you're mentioning the i3, the i8, which were very early cars in the market. And you have to see that there's a lot of prerequisites you need to be successful on electromobility in the market. You need, of course, green energy, because otherwise it's not sustainable. You need charging infrastructure. You need the grids to supply the energy at the point where you need it. You need a lot of raw materials and primary materials. So for us, now it's the right time to come with a full range of 15 electrified cars at BMW within the next 2 years, or now and within the next 2 years. And then the Neue Klasse will set the next step to be fully electric, of course, and giving the opportunity also to put hydrogen in. So it's the next logical step of BMW's strategy. But not only on the electrical side, it's also a digital journey we are going through, even though the electrical or the engine, the drivetrain will remain the heart of each and every BMW. But as you can see in the i7 already, it will be a totally different digital experience in the car. We call it tech magic and human-centric.
It is something very different and quite unique. And you know,
I think it was a very immersive experience already yesterday.
It was, and I can't wait for more, I'll be honest. You know, the interesting thing here is that also, as you talk about this transformation or journey towards electrification, full electrification, for the foreseeable future, many markets, many consumers will still obviously want ICE models. Expectations become a little bit maybe higher from BMW, since performance is so much at the heart of pretty much every car that you make. How do you then keep that expectation going and make sure that you don't sort of let go of that side of things?
I think you can see with the i7, with the X7, that we continuously improve our combustion engines to the next levels, and at the same time investing into electromobility. And I truly believe once your people drive it, they will see that electromobility is a fantastic experience, and it's pure driving pleasure, sheer driving pleasure, even if it's an electrical car. So we offer both. And our customers in 140 countries around the world, there will be different paces on electromobility. There will be different customer demands, whether it's a sedan or a SUV. So we want to have the opportunity to offer all our customers the right product.
But I can tell you that having driven the iX and the i4, I completely endorse that, and can't wait to see what happens then with things like the Neue Klasse. The design language, always something that gets a lot of discussion at BMW, especially the recent years, where we have seen a sort of shift away from what was traditionally the BMW design language. How exciting is that for the brand, given the fact that with electric you can experiment, or the designers can experiment a lot more?
I think we call it forwardism. So, and you touched it already. Design is always something where you have to go a step ahead. If nobody discusses it, it's not a good design, I would call it. So with the i7, we went the next big step, not only in the exterior, but also in the interior, with the curved display, with all these kind of aspects in the car, with the look and feel in the car, with the big theater screen in the car. So it's a whole new experience in the interior design of the car. And we will improve that for the next generation as well. And I think it will be very exciting to look at the next coming up designs of BMW.
You know, I have to ask a question which I know in some ways becomes a little unfair, but consumers today get so caught up with gadgets and tech, they almost forget about performance, or maybe some of them don't even have certain expectations. For a brand that really rests on performance, will that be difficult to make sure that the message is always on point in terms of saying, hey, look, we've got all the technology that you need, but the car also drives damn well?
That's for BMW for sure. Every BMW
we hope
will
so
be
also,
every
by the way,
BMW will be sheer driving pleasure,
yeah.
Especially with an electrical engine in it and with the electric drivetrain, which we take very much care of, that it's a true BMW. But on the other side, I think there's a lot of people who really endorse that we have such an incredible digital experience with arts being in the car, with that shy tech technology where it's all very sensitive, and with all the visual experiences with the theater screen, 31-inch, 8K. So I think it's not an either or, it's an and. And driving will still be or remain in the heart of every BMW.
That's very heartening to know. And I already knew you were going to say this, so that's also good. One last area I want to touch upon is, especially in markets like ours, compact vehicles and the SUV body style. Not only have they already been important for some time, but we find the world over that for a variety of reasons, especially with compacts, the demand is just getting bigger and bigger. How do you see that as a luxury or a premium brand? Because the demands are coming not from people's spending power, but more from practicality. Spaces are becoming reduced in our cities and things like that, and yet the need for SUVs.
We look very closely at each and every market, and our philosophy is and will be in the future to serve our customers and whatever they demand. Either it's an electrical car or it's a combustion engine car, either it's a sedan or a SUV, we want to offer it and make people happy with BMWs.
I can't wait to drive the iX1 in that context. So one last question then, if I could ask you about India in particular. Yes, I think in our market, if you go back a decade, I think the expectation of the potential was a lot sharper, a lot more exciting, and it was truly, it wasn't misplaced, let's say. But for whatever reason, with policy and taxation, we haven't quite kept up with that. Do you still remain optimistic about India?
Definitely. I mean, we already started operation in 2006 and the plant in 2007, so it's a long-lasting operation already. We are very committed to the market, and we are very optimistic to see what is coming. And of course, we will adjust our model range. We have already 13 different models in the market being produced locally. And I think with the i4 and the iX being imported to India, it's a strong commitment also to electromobility. So we are pretty optimistic to see what's coming, and we are prepared.
And they've been received well, so that always helps, I know. So we now look forward to the arrival of this car. Hopefully you are also in India soon at some point, and we
I hope so too.
Meet there the next time. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.